Must accept the results of this election. Earlier today, I spoke with President-elect Trump and congratulated him on his victory. I also told him that we will help him and his team with their transition, and that we will engage in a peaceful transfer of power.
Now that's Kamala Harris speaking at 4:30 this afternoon. We're at 1 hour ago. Her concession speech coming in the race for the White House. As you heard, she made a phone call to President-elect Donald Trump today, congratulating him on the win. Donald Trump's victory grew even larger today, expanding his electoral count and winning the popular vote. But it was last night he declared victory after ABC News called Pennsylvania for him.
We overcame obstacles that nobody thought possible, and it is now clear that we've achieved the most incredible political thing. Look what happened. Is this crazy?
Trump won crucial battleground states, including North Carolina, Georgia, and Wisconsin, to earn the 270 votes needed to win the Electoral College. And there's so much more to talk about. We ask our political experts to rejoin us after they were here all day yesterday for election coverage.
You both did a great job. Thanks again. We have Democrat David Tandy from the Denton's Law Firm in Louisville. Of course, the former Metro Council president, along with Republican Iris Wilbur-Glick, owner of her consultant firm, IW Strategies. Iris, let me begin with you. Not just a victory for Donald Trump, but a mandate.
Across the country, ruby red, remarkable. I mean, I think we were here a couple hours ago and sort of anticipating a longer wait period for the returns, but a swift and very profound victory across the board, really. Beyond the top of the ticket, really down the ticket, U.S. Senate flipping, retaining the House. And then here locally, a little bit of a Republican wave with some of the results.
We want to talk about that in a second. But you're right. We thought maybe we'd know Thursday who the president was.
Right, exactly. And David, I know the Washington Post just wrote something this afternoon about they believe that Donald Trump made a big impact on black men and Hispanic men. Your thoughts on that?
I would agree on Hispanic men.
Okay.
I would not as relates to African American men. If you look at the numbers, there's really 1 percentage point difference from what Vice President Harris got this year versus what Joe Biden got last year. When you're really looking at the differences in terms of what really mattered in this particular race, it was the Republican base actually turned out in this one. Also, the Hispanic men voted in larger margins in that regard. You also had more vote in the rural parts of the country. They turned out in larger numbers. So they're not in the big masses like you would get out of your urban centers, but you got cumulatively, it was a lot.
Let's talk about the fascinating development, at least to me, is what happened in Louisville Metro Council race. You know, Southern Jefferson County used to be the blue-collar Democratic stronghold in this community. Still, Democrats were leading in some of those precincts, but Republicans picked up 3 seats. How'd that happen?
And I think that theme sort of translated across the country at the federal level, of what you described, Doug, as that blue collar, almost regardless of party affiliation, but sort of like that type of economic background and education level. And so we'll hear that in days and weeks to come about just politically how political campaigns cater to effective messaging to folks that are, meet sort of that middle income without college degree and sort of that working class composition. And so in Southwest Jefferson County, some surprise wins there. And it's important to note that although Democrats still retain the majority control on council, this is the slimmest margin we've ever experienced. I believe the beginning of council when it was formed in 2002 was maybe 15-11, if I recall, and now we're 14-12. And so that tight margin absolutely makes a difference. Maybe can't always put points on the board, so to speak, but can absolutely impact sort of the flow of different ordinances and actually, make an impact of what moves and what doesn't.
And David, wanted to get your opinion on this because Rick Blackwell, Tammy Fowler, longtime Democrats, you know them. That was a surprise to a lot of people that they did not win their races.
Well, yeah, but we have seen this happen in other races as well, in other ways. When you're that's the part about when you're running for office. A lot of it is out of your control. You can do a good job, do everything you're supposed to the right way. Both of them were all those candidates were well funded, but the tide or the mood of the electorate was going against you at that particular time. So that's the way it turns out sometimes.
I'd like you both to weigh on this. I'll start with you, David, because former Metro Council President. Is the next big target in Louisville the Louisville mayor's office for the Republicans?
It's always the target.
Well, Don Fitzpatrick said he's the Jefferson County GOP lead. They were waiting for the election day to decide how strong they would go after the mayor's office. Do you think that is in play now with the shift in Jefferson County?
Well, I think it will be more in play now that you have nonpartisan races. I think that you would have to have the right type of candidate who would run and essentially try to, basically wink and a nod. People would know this is a Republican that's running, but then be able to speak to other coalitions within the city.
So, Iris, do they bring Bill Deareth back, or what do they do?
I love that we're talking about 26. And so, I think there's going to be, folks on the left and right that are going to be interested. Although the race will be nonpartisan moving forward, I expect it to be sort of a spirited, what we're used to as a primary process, but sort of that runoff approach. I think we'll see several candidates vying for the seat.
Any major surprises for you guys in the state races that were out there last night?
Pretty much everything broke the way that it did. Nothing changed on the state level. It's still 80-20 Republican majority in the House, and nothing changed in the Senate.
Jump in there. 80-20, the same composition going into Election Day, but sort of a semi-loser that I want to point out. Governor Beshear, for the first time, spent real money backing legislative candidates and literally zero pickups. So did not net.
But he did win on Amendment 2.
However, Doug, that performance on Amendment 2 mirrored Amendment 1 of that sort of victory margin. $0 were spent in Amendment 1. So I would argue, ultimately, what impact did Governor Beshear have on Amendment 2?
Now, last night you said you did give the governor a nod for the Amendment 2 defeat, though, because he was ever president.
I mean, record dollars. I think there was over $17 million total spent. But when we look at the performance of Amendment 1, again, zero money spent on that constitutional amendment, and then the outcome of Amendment 2, again, did he ultimately make the difference with such a heavy margin voting against it?
Well, you're right. There was like $20 million spent on that race total on Amendment 2. All right. We thank you both for coming in. Love your all's perspective, and they'll be with us down the road here as we talk about the election.
Absolutely. And for an entire recap of the election, just head to WHS11.com, and there you'll see a breakdown of the votes from local races to the White House. You can also download our news app.